is. If there's one thing you can count on from the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, it is that when he speaks against his political foes, it's usually in the most forthright, convention-busting terms. In his maximalist way, he does not hold back when it comes to what he wants to achieve against his former ally, President Tinubu, and his former party, the APC, which is to knock them off the leadership perch in Nigeria. For many in the APC, that is a strange way to treat a party on whose platform he became a two-term governor of Kaduna State. But on this program on Monday night, Malam El-Rufai didn't hold back, determinedly pledging to wipe out the APC's political advantage in 2027 and to ensure that President Tinubu never returns to Aso Rock, ever. Well, the reaction from the APC has been fast-paced. The party accuses him of venting his frustrations on television and of unwarranted activism. But the APC also wants its opportunity to hit back hard on television, and so it gets its right of reply tonight. But first, here's a little snippet of Nasir El-Rufai speaking on this program barely 24 hours ago.
Nigerians are tired of the APC. We know that, we have polled that. There is 91% disapproval of this administration across the country, 91% disapproval. It's the worst in Nigeria's history. But Nigerians are looking for a credible option. Anytime I wake up and I see the Tinubu government inflicting more pain on Nigerians and just bungling governance, the simplest things in governance that I knew when I was DG of BP, these guys can't even get it together. Whenever I see that, I thank God, because I think God saved me. I'm a very lucky person. I think God saved me from the embarrassment of having to explain to be part of this disaster. The guy is gone. He's performed miserably. The economy has tanked. The security architecture has failed. There are no clear trade, industrial, and investment policies. Everything is going wrong.
Nasir El-Rufai in his element. Well, for the APC's right of reply, I'm joined now in the studio by the Executive Secretary and CEO of the National Institute of Cultural Orientation and former member of the Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council, Otumba Biodun Ajiboye. Otumba, good to see you again.
Thank you, my brother Charles. I'm back home here.
You are perfectly welcome here.
Thank you.
Where would you like to start in your right of reply to the former governor of Kaduna State? There seems to be a lot that he said there.
Well, with due respect to Malam El-Rufai, there are times in the life of a man to be silent and observe situations as they unfold. When you become so voluble, you become a nuisance and a rabblerouser.
Well, he's a member of the opposition.
But you see, opposition is not the same as just talking, just saying things out of personal vendetta and bitterness.
But is he just talking?
He's just talking. How do you say that nothing is working in Nigeria? Even if a child of 2 years says that, you would consign it to some garbage. How can you say that? But that is not the issue. El-Rufai is a very lucky human being. And I would have thought at 65, he should learn a little bit of wisdom by being silent, by being a bit reserved, so he would get a lot of respect from people. It's obvious that he's smarting from some failure, and it is obvious that he's spewing his frustrations. There's no doubt about it. If he didn't want to be minister, why did he respond to the nomination and the screening with the Senate? He wanted to be minister. We all know how much he loves power. It's not today. He loves power, and when he doesn't get power, he wants to disrupt everything and make everybody look like an idiot. That's exactly who he is. But this time around, he's gotten it wrong because he's dealing with the wrong man. See, he messed up Buhari. He says Buhari is not electable. He's never electable. And that Nigerians will not forget his insensitivity as a military man. That was Buhari. Now, I don't blame him. Asiwaju cited him in the public in Kaduna and more or less told him, no, you must join us in governance, and he felt very proud of himself as if he's some Nostradamus. Okay, walking down the line, he didn't make Senate screening. Instead of him to face his problem and find out why he didn't make the screening, he went to town and started to vituperate. What is the essence of that? He's not a little boy. This was a man who was DG of BPE. He was minister in FCT, governor for 8 years. What else does he want God to do for him? And he thinks in his mind he can bring down a government. He failed. We lost presidential election in Kaduna now. So what is it? If you can't win the election in your locality, in your state, what kind of politicians do you think you are? And he's surrounded by some people who are obviously political failures. Some have been struggling since 1999. They have been failing successively since 1999, and they will continue to fail until they get into the grave. Some even lost their state to a successor. Amechi is taunting, Wike is taunting Amechi like a baby. Amechi is not even supposed to come out to talk. He has lost his political wit. So who else is there? Peter Obi. Of course, we all know Peter Obi will keep ranting forever. You go to the north where Hausa cap today, get into the mosque. Tomorrow he will continue to do that. Asiwaju is not a man they can mess with politically.
Well, the issue that I think he was trying to focus on is the way that the government has improved or not improved the lives of the Nigerian people. He seemed to think that the president had lost the plot and the trust of most Nigerians because, according to him, if you ask most Nigerians whether they are better off today than they were 2 years ago, most of them will say they were better off 2 years ago.
Charles, I'll ask you a question. When there's a problem in a house, is it the best option to continue to manage the problem or to get to the root of the problem and solve the problem forever?
Yeah, but you don't take your family to go and live on the street while you're trying to fix the problem and let the rain be falling on them and be saying to them, we need to fix the problem. You find alternative accommodation for them or somewhere.
The alternative accommodation will not be comfortable.
Where they can stay while you're fixing the house.
That's the point.
Yeah, but that's the issue, isn't it?
No, it's not the issue.
That is the issue.
It's not the issue, and I'll tell you why. The last government borrowed to pay salaries. The last government used almost our revenues to pay salaries. Okay. Because the last government did not want to witness what we call surgical operation on a disease, on an ailment. It's a choice. Asiwaju says, no, let's get to the root of this problem once and for all. If we're able to solve the problem today, the problem may not arise again in future. If I were a leader, I would choose that option Asiwaju has chosen. It's not as if there are no ways of saying, let's keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and use it to placate and serve it as, palliative. And life goes on a very, very fake, template. That's an option. So it depends on which option. And this guy called El-Rufai, he knows, he's just playing to the gallery. Everything El-Rufai has come to say on Monday is saying them out of bitterness and frustration. See, have you seen what Obasanjo said about El-Rufai? He said El-Rufai does not understand the meaning of loyalty. He's only loyal to himself. He's a pathological liar. He said so, not me. He said he doesn't even know the meaning of, he embellishes lies and half-truths. You see, God is wonderful. There's a Yoruba proverb that says, when you are bald-headed, God compensates you with a lot of beards. His petite size like mine, almost everybody God created like this. It gives them a little bit of extra intelligence. There is no doubt. I've seen quite a lot of people. It now depends on how well you are able to use this intelligence. If you allow your ego to mar this intelligence, you become a rabblerouser. El-Rufai is almost getting to that point of a rabblerouser.
Right. Let me ask you this, because you've been a big ally of President Tinubu. You were there with him when he was running for office, and you helped him win the presidency, and you've been rewarded for it. Where do you think the president's, given what you've seen in the last 2 years, where do you think the president's political weakness lies right now? What's the big strategic threat to him?
As far as I can see, the biggest threat to this government are those who refuse to understand the attitude and the mindset with which is running the state.
So that means that potentially they can upset the apple cart for him.
I don't think so. They don't have that capacity.
Well, you just said they're the biggest threat.
Yeah, the threat is not converted to a loss automatically. If we can mitigate against threat and strengthen up. Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is, any move Bola Tinubu makes, rather than patriotically understanding it, a Peter Obi will criticize it and hack it down. That old Baba, what's his name now? Baba Atiku will find faults. As if they were the president, they can't make such, situation. They can't be in that kind of situation. No. When a government is in power, it's only responsible of all of us to patriotically support such government so that the government can deliver. I am not saying that there should not be opposition. But of course, these people are not even capable of putting proper opposition on the table.
What about people like Senator Ali Ndume, who was here before?
Senator Ali Ndume said a lot of things. One of the things he said that didn't...
But he's a member of your party.
Yeah, he just told you that he has no loyalty to anything. He will be an opposition within the party.
But
he just told you he was an opposition within PDP. But he was a member of PDP, but he was an opposition in PDP.
But he has loyalty to the Nigerian people and
I
to the Nigerian constitution.
I don't think so. He doesn't get his concept right in some... How do you call Bayo Onanuga a domestic staff? Does that make sense? Is he a domestic staff? A 66-year-old man who has been struggling for Nigeria before he even knew what he was doing? You don't say things like that. And that was... I sat here watching him, and that was what made me think that he probably doesn't have his facts right, and sometimes he just wants to be noted, and he does things that are a bit radical to be noted. That's what I feel.
Beyond the fact that President Tinubu has removed the subsidy,
yeah,
and reformed the exchange rate regime and all the rest of it, for which we must admit he's been commended internationally.
Thank you.
What can you point to and say that he's really achieved, that has touched the Nigerian people? I'm not talking about what might touch them in the future. I'm talking about what has touched them in the last 2 years.
Have you heard of the student loan?
I have heard of the student loan.
Have
The NEL fund.
Okay. Did you see the latest commissioner of 2,000 trailers or trucks, tractors? Can you transform what that means into reality in agriculture? When last did we have such privilege? So what I'm saying is that in management, there are times to plan. And when you plan, the plan must mature into some execution.
Right.
The man has a vision. Just today they said revenue base of Nigeria has grown to 6 trillion the first quarter.
Yeah, but there's a big issue around.
No, I don't want to look at the issue first. Let's look at the prospect. You see, you like to look at Nigeria from the angle of half empty cup and half full cup. I would say half full. I won't say half empty.
No, but
now we are talking about what has he done that is inspiring.
Right.
And I said, internally generated revenue has grown to 6 trillion. Now, you said you've heard of the student loan, and you've heard of the free enrollment of students in some higher institutions, and people are getting it. The man has a plan. There is a time to plan. When you are planning, there's a time for the plan to mature into execution, and there's a time the execution will be an outcome. So it is not enough to say that there are no problems. There must be problems because the state of Nigeria was almost in comatose.
Yeah, but you're borrowing more money than any previous government.
Are we borrowing to invest, or we're
borrowing
to pay?
I don't know what you're borrowing.
We're investing. Obviously, we're investing.
You've borrowed more money than any previous government in recent history.
Are you saying that we are borrowing to pay salaries?
I don't know what you're borrowing
So
from.
I am saying to you,
I am trying to understand. I'm trying to
say
say to you that the statistics show that you have been borrowing a heck of a lot
that's
of
not
money.
an issue, and
that potentially can put this country in jeopardy.
It's not true.
Potentially, it
It's
can.
not true, and I'll tell you why. There is no country that does not borrow. Doesn't America borrow? But the fact is that when you are borrowing, your productivity must match what you are borrowing to, and your repayment ability must be sure. That's what is important. It's not like you shouldn't borrow. Why would you not borrow? Now, today, Nigeria is on the path of growth. You see, why some of them are getting very disturbed is because they feel that it must be business as usual. Make sure you pay salaries, make sure you do this, make sure you do that, even though you don't have the capacity to take this on. So, but Bola Tinubu has decided to say, let us do proper planning. Let's go back to the drawing boards. Let's plan very well and see how well we can deliver. Now, to me, if I have an option, I'll take the option of proper planning than just jump on the ship and begin to do what is not. Okay. But you forgot again that the main reason why we have come here is it's a right of reply to Malam El-Rufai that is going around the city, the whole city of Nigeria, to say what he does not know. And I put it to you, Malam El-Rufai should be disregarded. He's a rabblerouser. He's a rabblerouser because, one, this was the Kaduna state that he ran for 8 years. He can't even go back there freely because the members of House of Assembly, they took a vote on his government, and it was a vote of no confidence on his government. So what is his pride? Why does he think that the northern Nigeria will follow him in his dance of Macabre? Why does he think so? Why does he think that he controls the northern Nigeria? Who gave him that confidence that he's Mr. Right in Nigeria and what he says makes meaning? As far as Nigerians are concerned, Malam El-Rufai is a time waster. A man who has no understanding of loyalty. A man who has been publicly called a pathological liar. And he didn't even mind. He has no reputation. He's deficient in character. He's defective in behavior. All he knows is about himself. His son is a member of the House of Reps. And his son is not even following him in this charade, in this dance of Macabre.
Right.
So
we're almost out of time. How much do you think Mr. Tinubu's decision to let go of people like Nasir El-Rufai has split the president's support base? Because El-Rufai was a big supporter of the president previously. I mean, is the president risking party unity? Has the defection of many other politicians to the APC compensated for that?
What could the president have done if the man decides to turn coat and begin to criticize him all over Nigeria?
Wasn't it the president who turned coat against him
How
first?
do you say so? The man says, I want to make you minister. He nominated you as a minister. You are invited to the Senate for screening. You didn't make the Senate screening. You turned around to say it is the man that didn't want you. So what's the essence of asking you to go, nominating you in the first instance? I mean, you see, I have told you, Malam El-Rufai is suffering from ego infliction. The day he recognizes that everything does not have to go his way is the day he will get a bit of wisdom. Nigeria is not run like that. Why won't you say, oh, because I did this for the party, I campaigned for him, I was the one that orchestrated the fact that power must shift to the south, I give that to him. I was here. The day somebody came to say, Buhari says he would prefer the former Senate president, I was here. It was Malam El-Rufai that braved it and met Buhari and said, did you say this? And that is good. But all the Malam El-Rufai was doing in that time was to position himself as vice president. That was his ambition. Now that he couldn't make the vice president, he began to accuse the NSA from Adamawa, Ribadu. After Ribadu didn't mind him, he went all out and said, he will make sure Ashwaju doesn't come back. Who is he?
Right. Okay.
Is it Nigeria?
On that note, you've got your right of reply.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you very much indeed
Time
for
is too
coming
short
in.
for me.
Otumba Biodun Ajiboye is the Executive Secretary and CEO of the National Institute of Cultural Orientation, and he's a former member of the Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you again. Thank you for coming in.
I appreciate it.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye and thank you for watching.